Welcome to Doug in Exile. We are back for now. This is my art channel that YouTube gave back to me a long time ago. As most of you know, my Doug in Exile channel got wiped for circumvention. And I just wanted to do this video to tell you I'm okay. I'm still a happy patriot, but I never got the chance to tell you all thank you. Thank you for two of the best years of my life. So this could also be a goodbye. I'm posting here for as long as I'm allowed. I wanted to tell you I'm on X/Twitter. It's important for you to find me there, at Doug in Exile. Just look up Doug in Exile. And that's where you can find me. That is the future, I believe. And I'm also on Rumble, Doug in Exile on Rumble. There are links in the description to both. And there's a PayPal donation link because we're currently demonetized. There are dangerous accounts impersonating me here on YouTube, so don't believe anything you see. All channel announcements will be made on Twitter. With that said, please find me on Twitter. Do make a donation. And here's our political video on Kamala Harris. I'm Doug in Exile. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. It's been a complete blast. Welcome to Doug in Exile. It is time to play the amazing race erase of Kamala Harris. As mainstream media tries to do a complete brainwashing, this is mental abuse that they're doing to you, thinking that they can destroy your sensibility. I'll prove it by the end. This is a 1984 move predicted by George Orwell, formally rolled out by the Democrat Party and mainstream media. First, here's Kamala Harris with about her Indian heritage. We're going to go back and forth on this the whole time. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll give us a like. I hope you leave a comment because it helps push this message out across all our platforms. At Doug in Exile on Twitter and on Rumble, Doug in Exile. We're on Locals, Facebook. Let's go.
Kamala in Hindi means lotus flower and is an important symbol in Indian culture, rooted deep in the bottom of the river. Very similar to Harris's Indian identity, which she wears on her sleeve.
That's CNN. Back before they were told that Kamala Harris was black, they were pushing all this rollout that she had an Indian heritage. That's what's being scrubbed right now. Here's Trump's recent speech that we're going to go into. His recent interview. The questions were rude and nasty, often in the form of a statement, but we crushed it. What is he talking about? We'll show you clips of that speech coming right up.
I'm Doug in Exile.
Watching Doug in Exile.
You're watching Doug in Exile.
Doug in Exile.
You're watching Doug in Exile.
Here's that speech where Trump said he crushed it.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you?
Is it appropriate to call Kamala Harris a DEI hire and acceptable language? This is, by the way, a black woman, a journalist from mainstream media, asking Trump this question. I only want to say, is it acceptable language for Trump to say she's a DEI hire? But first, let's look at some of the language that Joe Biden has spoken regarding race. And this journalist at ABC News voted for him.
Trump, and you ain't black. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You got the first sort of mainstream African American who was articulate and bright and clean and nice looking guy.
Unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
They're going to put you all back in chains.
The reason I was able to stay sequestered in my home is because some black woman was able to stack the grocery shelf.
And I got involved in the civil rights movement just as a kid.
I came out of the civil rights movement. I was one of those guys that sat in and marched and all that stuff.
And the New York Times reports, quote, more than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once.
Biden has done nothing but lie about his involvement in the civil rights movement. He has ties to in fact, to KKK members like Byrd, who he defended, said was a good friend. So I'm only saying He's been confused on this thing. All the Democrats voted for him. They don't care about race. They don't care about the particulars when Trump said Kamala Harris was a DEI hire.
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that?
Trump is asking for a definition of DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she says, that is my definition. He's asking for a definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she said the definition is diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's a tautology. That is not a definition. So she's ignorant already. Trump's already running circles around her.
Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a little different, and Trump is about to blow her mind open on this one. But remember, it was Joe Biden who started the diversity, equity, and inclusion, the DEI hire. It's he who said it, and all these people voted for him. They do not care that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire.
Joe Biden has vowed to choose a woman as his running mate. And there are fresh calls for him to name a black candidate as protests against racial injustice.
So that's them admitting, we're going to do a black woman vice president. We're going to do a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Well, I've commented on this previously. The president has stated and reiterated his commitment to nominating a black woman to the Supreme Court. And
I'm looking forward to making sure there's a black woman on the Supreme Court to make sure we, in fact, get every representation. Not a joke.
Of course, and Abby, the president, he reiterated that he will nominate a black woman to the U.S. Supreme Court, and that decision.
He wants to send a signal to his supporters that he's going to keep this promise that he made on the campaign trail to put a black woman on the court for the first time.
Black woman, black woman. No other qualifications, by the way. That's what they said were the two major things that they promised. Look, here's the list of the people to replace Breyer on the Supreme Court. These are 4 black women in here. Not a lot of diversity there, but they are the ones that said they're going for a diversity, equity, and inclusion hire. Here's Biden.
And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman.
That journalist just now lied to you and said she has always identified as a black candidate or as a black person. Always, 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 she just now said. She's lying to you. They're trying to brainwash you, mentally abuse you, confusing you. So you go, is she black? Is she Indian? I don't know. Here she is. Here's Kamala in her own words.
Okay, so what we're gonna cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because you are Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that.
Yeah, the reason why no one knows that is because you keep switching your story. She's Indian American, yes, 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 I'm Indian American. She's agreeing with Trump there.
I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about.
Still excited about it. Kamala Harris is not so excited about it. Here's from DW News. Kamala Harris's nomination has stoked national pride in India. They're so thrilled to have an Indian American woman as our vice president, as the U.S. vice president candidate celebrates her Indian heritage, if only. These are all signs, this video clip is all signs of her in India with, they're announcing her Indian heritage. Banners of U.S. vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris are posted across India. The possibility of Harris becoming the first Indian American vice president is stoking national pride to India, especially in her grandparents' home city of Chennai.
Certainly, you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Not good.
Yeah. Except for now, she's burying that heritage. Here's some people from India being proud of her Indian heritage. It gives me immense pride as a woman to learn that a woman with roots in this city is all set for the U.S. election. This is Business Insider before they started trying to brainwash you. California's Kamala Harris becomes the first Indian American U.S. Senator. Why are they so clear on her heritage and now they don't get it? Here's another video. The feeling of pride is mutual. Many Indians wonder what a Biden-Harris win would mean for the country. I'll tell you one thing a Biden-Harris win for the country would mean. It means open borders so far.
Historically black college. I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
really don't
have said?
know. I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are.
They're trying to erase black history. We're going to write black history.
How exactly do you write black history when your candidate is India? Just like this Michael Jackson video, you take an Indian and you turn them black.
I put my money on Kamala Harris. I think VP's pick should be a black woman. Black women are...
Let's look at how Trump's vice president pick, J.D. Vance, look him showing off his wife, Usha Vance, the new face of rising Indian American community. And Trump loves Vance and loves his wife. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris and the Democrats call Vance weird. Is that partly because he married an Indian woman?
So we're both Indian,
yes,
but actually we're both South Indian.
Yes, you look like the entire one half of my family.
What's the purpose of all this? George Orwell had it down on what they're doing to you. Doublethink, the act of simultaneously accepting two mutually contradictory beliefs as correct. According to Winston Smith, the protagonist of 1984, doublethink is to know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously two opinions which canceled out, knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them, to use logic against logic. Ignorance is strength, which I believe pretty much describes Kamala Harris's entire life, and 2 + 2 = 5. They're trying to brainwash you and memory hole Kamala Harris's entire heritage, and we're supposed to sit there and go, I guess she's black now, I guess they never said it. I'm Doug in Exile.